Have your attention, it is 1 o'clock and we will start with the meeting. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dan Essex. I'm the Governance and Scrutiny Manager for the Combined Authority. Welcome to the first meeting of Transport Delivery Overview Scrutiny Committee this year. Slight change for those members who were on the committee last year. The chair of the committee was appointed by the WMCA board, which for new members is our equivalent of full council. At the AGM last month, the board agreed that individual committees should appoint their chairs going forward. And so the first item of business on your agenda, as you will see, is the appointment of the chair for the forthcoming year. Just a procedural note, in accordance with national regulations, so rules that apply to all combined authorities and all scrutiny committees, that the chair and indeed vice chair of the committee must be from an opposite party to the political party of the mayor. And as you all know, the elections in May produced a change in the mayor. So now we have a Labour mayor. Labour members of this committee aren't entitled to chair the committee or be vice chair. So from the Conservative and Liberal Democrat members who sit on the committee, can I have a nomination, please, to chair for the forthcoming year? That's all done.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Tim Huxtable. Thank you.
Is that seconded?
Yeah, I would like to second it, Councillor Huxtable.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Are there any other nominations? All those members in favour of Councillor Huxtable chairing? And against? There are none against. So, Councillor Huxtable, I invite you to chair the meeting. Thank you.
Right, well, first of all, thank you very much, everyone. Interesting change of position, but thank you very much indeed. I'm going to move on to the appointment of vice chair, but before I do that, I would just like to thank Councillor McNicholas for all his work he did as chairing this committee over the last municipal year. And just to say that I will try to chair this in a collaborative, collegial basis. If I make mistakes, please forgive me. If you think I could do something better, please let me know. And I will try my best, and please be patient with me as I get used to this new role. So, my first business is to ask for a nomination for the appointment of a vice chair. Do we have any nominations? I would like to nominate Councillor Samantha Gethin. Is that seconded?
Seconded.
Okay, all those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? Yep, okay. Councillor Gethin, congratulations. Would you like to take your certificate? Before we move on to apologies for absence, I realise that there's a lot of new faces on this committee this municipal year. It's lovely to see members who were on the committee last year coming back. But before we do so, I would suggest that we just go around the table, officers included, and introduce ourselves. So, Councillor Tim Huxtable, Birmingham City Council.
Samantha Gethin, Solihull Council.
Good afternoon. Pete Bond, Director of Integrated Transport Services at Transport West Midlands.
Kate Taylor, Head of Finance, Business Partnering and Strategic Planning, one of the Deputy Section 151 officers. Afternoon, Jenny Mackenzie, Head of the Transport Portfolio for the Delivery Director at TFW.
Good afternoon, everyone. Sandy Shingali, Director of Strategic Partnerships and Integration at Transport for West Midlands.
Councillor Wilkes, Suffolk Council.
Councillor Steve Thornley, kind of Chase District.
Good afternoon, it's Councillor Carol Hyatt, City of Wolverhampton Council.
Good afternoon, John Nicholas, Coventry City Council.
Good afternoon, Councillor Mary Lock, Birmingham City Council. Hello everyone, Councillor Shagan from Birmingham City Council.
Councillor Ward, Birmingham. Good afternoon, everyone. Councillor Hobinson from City of Wolverhampton.
Purpose at Coventry City Council. Congratulations, team.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Councillor Keith Archer, Dudley.
Good afternoon, Councillor Zakir Chaudhry, Birmingham City Council.
Good afternoon, Councillor Deadwood, Dudley.
Afternoon, everyone. Councillor Robert Alden, Birmingham.
Councillor Ahmad Hussain, Walsall Council.
Also, good meetings for one also council.
Councillor Leslie Kay, Solihull.
Afternoon, Jack Second, Solicitor, Westminster Command Authority.
Dan Essex, Governance and Scrutiny Manager.
Anna Simpson, Government Services Manager. Officer.
Good afternoon, all. Linda Roberts, Statutory Scrutiny Officer for the Combined Authority.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
On the screen.
Oh, on the screen. Councillor Clements.
Yeah, hello, I'm Councillor Liz Clements, Birmingham City Council. Congratulations, Tim. Great to see you in the chair.
Thank you, Liz.
Hello, Councillor Anthony Tucker, Coventry City Council.
Thank you, Councillor Tucker. Right. First of all, yes, Pete.
Yeah, so we just wanted to advise the committee, Anne Shaw, who is Executive Director of Transport, unfortunately had an accident over the weekend and is now on crutches, so unfortunately he's not with us today. So just to notify you and the committee, she was anticipating being here.
And I've already wished Anne a speedy recovery, and we hope to see her back in person soon.
Thank you.
And I'm sure I extend that on behalf of the whole committee. First of all, can I just say it's brilliant to see that we're quorate. I believe we are quorate. Yes, and my counting is correct, because we have suffered, as John knows, from quoracy issues before. So it's nice to kick off the start of this year being a quorate committee.
Chair, can I move previous decisions? Like, or were they done by the combined authority?
Yes, Chair. So there are no decisions that require ratification as such.
Jolly good. So in terms of apologies for absence, Janet.
One apology from Councillor David Monroe, representing German constituent.
Thank you. Any further apologies on the floor? Okay. I'm going to move on. Declarations of interest. I know that those of us who attended the induction day actually were given declarations of interest to sign. I'm sure I speak on behalf of Dan and Lindsay, but if you haven't signed one, please do complete that and hand it to them as soon as possible. Do we have spare forms today, Mrs. Owen? Dan?
Yes, we will be chasing up in the nicest sense members who haven't returned their forms, so we will make sure that everyone has completed them as is required.
Chair,
Councillor.
I know I haven't, and I apologise for that, but could the forms be sent out via email as well, if possible?
Yes, Dan will see to that. Any other issues on item 4? If not, I move to 5, which is terms of reference. They are there for noting. Can we agree them?
We agree.
Thank you. Right, item 6, schedule of meeting for 2024. First of all, I'm going to go with the meeting dates. The 2nd of September is actually still in the school holidays. And it also, I believe, is on the same day as the main ONS committee of the Combined Authority. So to solve that, I'm proposing to move it from the 2nd to the 9th of September. As has been laid out, the to be confirmed October 24 meeting will be a mayoral question and answer on transport policy and delivery, and the December meeting will be to be confirmed is the mayoral question and answer on his proposed draft budget. I've also suggested that given there are no local elections in 2025 anywhere in the West Midlands, that we utilise that date because it is a long time not to have a meeting between March and July. Are we happy, first of all, with all those dates? The proviso is because there are members of this committee who also serve on the main ONS committee, that the dates do not coincide with any meetings of the main ONS committee. Is that agreed?
Aye.
Okay, the second issue is timings. What I am going to propose is that, as previous members of this committee know, we've normally had a briefing in the morning and then the main committee in the afternoon. I'm proposing we swap that around so that this meeting starts at 11 o'clock and is scheduled for 2 hours. We then have a comfort break and then go into the briefing so that group meetings can happen from 10 o'clock onwards. I say this because, as I say, the main ONS committee also have their meetings in the morning as well, and this might help with policy issues as well. Are we content with that? Yep. Okay. So all meetings on dates agreed will commence at 11. And the briefings that follow in the afternoon, I would like to tie more closely, as we are an ONS committee, to the mayor's priorities. So rather, we've had some really good and really informative and really interesting briefings. What I would like is to take that a further step forward and make sure that they're still interesting and informative, but tied very closely to the mayor's priority and having an overview and scrutiny of those. That will start in September, but I'll make a pitch for everyone to attend the briefing tomorrow at 11 o'clock on bus options. Don't know if you want to say any more on that briefing, Pete?
I am aware already there are 1 or 2 councillors who might not be able to make that session tomorrow. It is a really critical one in terms of the calendar because there is a proposal for a report to go to the board on the 19th. That's why there's no updates here today around the subject matter. For any councillors who can't make it, then we will try and make sure that we can get a discussion and dialogue with them. We will try and work around, but please, as many people who could attend tomorrow, that would be absolutely really well received. We will work around anybody else to see if we can get an update prior to the board discussion on the 19th of July.
Okay, Councillor Alden and Councillor Kay have both indicated to speak. Has anyone else? Yes, I'm going to call Councillor Nicholas first.
Mr. Bond, will there be a briefing available for tomorrow's meeting? And can that be made available prior?
There is proposed to be a presentation tomorrow to councillors. It's not War and Peace. There will be a relatively brief presentation that will allow time for questions and answers around it. If I can get that shared in advance of the meeting tomorrow with the team, then we'll have to try and get that out at the end of today.
I think that would be particularly useful for all councillors on this committee if that could be done, Peter. Councillor Alden.
Thank you. It's just on the dates. There's 3 which are marked as to be confirmed, particularly the 2 mayoral Q&As. Can we just make sure dates for them are circulated sooner rather than later so people have gone for their diaries? Thank you.
Okay, and as I've said, I do not want them to clash with school holidays.
Yeah.
If at all possible. Is it on this point, Councillor Lock?
No, but you did raise it because we did have it happen last year, and I'm glad that it would change round. It will be more productive, I feel. regarding the meeting tomorrow, unfortunately, I can't make it. And if the PowerPoint can be, and if we've got any questions, any of us that can't attend, then we could, send them in, while you check them to yourself, Kate.
Yeah, would very much welcome that, Councillor Locke. Councillor Kane.
Thank you, Jim. I'm just wondering whether the briefings are likely to be recorded for those people who are unable to attend or those who may wish to refer back at a later stage.
I will double check on that. I think I can't see any reason why we wouldn't be able to record the session.
Councillor Hyde.
Chair, previously, some of the briefings that we've had have informed the decisions that we've come to during the TDS meeting straight after. How do you propose to accommodate that sort of information sharing that will allow us to make informed decisions during the TDS meeting?
What I'm hoping is that, given the Mayor is going to set out his plan and vision for the future, that they are used to inform the Combined Authority board meetings where the decisions are actually taken, because we are an overview and scrutiny committee. For those of us who were on the Transport Delivery Committee, that was very much a body in its own right. But the decisions of the Mayor are going to be taken at that board meeting. And I would like us, as a scrutiny and as an overview and scrutiny committee, to have more impact and more oversight on the decisions before they're made, rather than once they are made. Because as a committee, we get the board papers, or we get to speak after the decisions have been made, and I think that's too late in the process. I would like to see it done beforehand.
I agree completely.
Thank you. Good. Right. Always like consensus. Anything else on schedule of meetings? No, in which case I'm going to move on to, for those of us who were here, the item agenda 7 and the minutes of the 8th of March. Does anyone wish to say anything on their factual accuracy? Councillor Hyde.
I've got 3 points, Chair. The first one is where the omission of our discussion and the conclusions about bringing right and real-time information was corrected, but I don't think it should be called an amendment. I do think it should be called an omission regarding the items of ring and right, because it is one that I worked very hard to make sure was corrected and included. The second point is page 8, second paragraph down, where we have the words "in response to Councillor Clervais-Achel's comments," and yet those comments aren't recorded. Now, the whole point of minutes is to accurately reflect what took place. And in the paragraphs above that, we have the comments and then what, the results, what resulted from that. But on that second paragraph down, there is an omission because we don't know what Councillor Clervais-Achel's comments were. And I think that shouldn't happen. So please could those comments be recorded? And then the last thing is page 9.87, or should I say my page 9.87, where we're told at the end that the Director of Integrated Transport noted that bus delivery options and ring and ride would be discussed in a specially convened session in May. Now, instead, we have a specially convened session on bus options tomorrow. These will then include ring and ride. Because I don't think it's anything that should be lost. In Wolverhampton, we have lost our community transport service, and ring and ride is of particular importance to our residents at the moment.
Okay, thank you very much for those comments, Councillor Hyatt. I'm going to put Pete on the spot and say, will tomorrow's session include ring and ride? And I think, just to follow on from your point, Councillor Hyde, this is the reason why I wanted a meeting in May, So we don't have to wait from March to July, because we didn't have that specially convened session in May. And I think we can't afford to lose that amount of time with everything going on in the transport agenda and the transport world. I will, after Pete, I will then ask Dan to pick up your points about the minutes, and I think Dan has to raise an issue on paragraph 82 as well.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Firstly, with regards to, and unfortunately, we couldn't hold that specially convened meeting in May, despite the best efforts due to transitions and various election processes. However, the meeting tomorrow, although the meeting tomorrow won't focus on Ring and Ride, there won't be the time in there to do that. But also, it's worth noting that there will not be a report going to the WMCA board in July on Ring and Ride. That will now go in September. And there will be a convened session around the Ring and Ride. This week, there's a huge focus on the procurement options from the latest Ring and Ride report that was brought to the Delivery and Scrutiny Committee earlier on in the year. There is a procurement process underway at the moment. So there's an intervention with all of the proposed bidders and operators into that space this week. So that couldn't be brought. But there will be summary, all of that be brought into a specially convened session for Ring and Ride. It won't be tomorrow, but it will happen, and it will happen by the end of the session in September.
And before I call Dan to pick up the other points, there will be, as has been mentioned, a Ring and Riding update coming to the Combined Authority Board on the 13th of September this year. Stephen Hayes is the relevant officer. Could you ask Stephen to contact Councillor Hyatt specifically to discuss her concerns about Ring and Ride?
Indeed, I can. And is this related to the concerns related in the how it was recorded in the minutes? The omission as opposed to the amendment, or more widely about this point?
I think more widely about this point. As I say, I'm very keen to get the views and comments of members about transport and transport policy before they come to the Combined Authority Board. And obviously Councillor Hyatt has a degree of expertise, having chaired Passengers First Meg over the last year.
Yeah, indeed. Although I do think we had that session with all of Councillor Hyatt and other councillors' views compared. But if you would like Councillor Hyatt a further session on that, I'm more than happy to arrange that with Stephen Hayes.
Thank you, Pete. Dan.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Hyatt, for your comments, which I can agree with in summary. So we can certainly make those changes that you have requested along the lines you suggested. I mean, a more general comment on them is obviously that they are a summary of the discussions of a meeting, and so there's always an element of subjective assessment as to comments that are included. Sometimes they are summarised rather than verbatim, but in any case, they should accurately reflect what councillors said. So we will take that on board, and you will see those changes going forward. And then, Chair, perhaps if I can, while I have the floor, the minute number 82, which was the task and finish review, effectiveness of member engagement and development. I do have an update on that. That was a task and finish review that was undertaken by some of the members who sat on the committee last year. Just to say that it was due to go to the WMCA board, as you can see in the minutes, on the 14th of June. It didn't, and the reason for that, it was to some extent it was written in different times, and so the one of the immediate effects of the change in mayoralty was some changes that the mayor agreed with Metropolitan Council leaders regarding some of our meetings, and the role of portfolio leads and ending that arrangement. It did mean, in that sense, a number of the recommendations of the task and finish group then became dated because they referred to committees and roles that no longer existed. So the other factor that's in consideration is the mayor and leaders again have agreed to undertake a further review and refresh of the constitution. And so I think the best approach is to take the work that the task and finish group have done to date, but actually then reconvene the group and the members to continue that work in light of the changes to the governance structure that the mayor and leaders have already agreed, and that their request for further review of the constitution, so we can feed into that review very much as it is taking place, rather than submitting a piece of work that, as I say now, is outdated as a result of the effects of the elections.
Okay, thank you for that, Dan. One thing I'm very keen to do, and we did discuss it at the task and finish scrutiny review, is in terms of our own committee, that we make it open and transparent regarding attendance at this meeting, whether apologies were given, whether someone attended in person or online, and I'd like that to be implemented as quickly as possible, please.
And assure members that we actually, across all meetings now, and this was something that leaders have requested. So before each combined authority board, which effectively is every other month, the team upstairs produce exactly that list of for every meeting, who attended, who sent their apologies, who sent substitutes, etc., so that leaders are aware of representation at each meeting from the members that they appoint. So that's in hand and started at the back end of last year, and will continue for this year as well.
Do members have any further matters arising from the minutes of the 8th of March? No, in which case we're going on to item 8, the capital delivery programme. And the capital delivery programme is in a new format from that of committees last year, and I believe officers will explain why that is. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to give you your 2-minute presentation I've requested. I'll try my best. So in summary, paper obviously is it's the comprehensive even at strategic level, which reflects our maturity planning development across the portfolio. So in summary, it's an update on the progress of support scheme over the last quarter or two, based on the most recent reports and submissions from local authorities and TFWM projects. Progress and moving towards a broader view of programmes, so a regional view, a single view of the portfolio, the capital delivery space for the region. A proposal to alternate reporting between capital and operations for the committee. So we do alternative committees and they get reports every month. And seek views on this version to inform its maturity planning and the next development of the dashboard. So just as a couple of points of note, I suppose, maturity wise, we're moving pretty well at the moment, and we are making good progress towards establishing a single view of the portfolio. Now that's a mixture of programmes. It was noted at previous committees that we predominantly concentrated on TFWM's major projects and some of the other local authority projects, depending on priority or importance. But actually, we need a full view. We need a full view of our complete pipeline and delivery portfolio across the region. So as the sort of accountable party, we're looking to do that and create that visibility for everybody. We're also looking to broaden the ability to get good discipline across the projects and programmes that we're funding and delivering for the region, and make sure that there's consistency across those projects and programmes, which brings with it a lot of benefits, working together across the partnership. So TFWM's TPO in particular, working very closely then or closer with local authority counterparts to try and realise more opportunities and benefits across work. So we're progressively bringing that forward, and we're looking to an intense summer and autumn period where we work much closer with officers in terms of bringing this level of performance dashboard and reporting into a space that we can. Progress-wise, just a really good progress across the portfolio, particularly for CRSCS and ATF programmes, which are reported in this particular update.
Jenny,
yes.
Sorry to interrupt you. There's a lot of acronyms there. Would you like to explain to new members what acronyms actually mean?
Yes, apologies. Get so easily when you're using them all the time. So City Regional Sustainable Transport Settlement, for CRSTS, for those who are less familiar, is just over £1 billion worth of funding for delivery across the region of major capital transport infrastructure projects. And ATF is the Active Travel Funding Programme, which has various tranches. At the moment, we've got 4 tranches of funding, and we're progressively developing and delivering active travel schemes across the region. So both of those are major funding programmes for us. And at the moment, we're in the process of maturing the reporting so we can see that broader view across the programme, so that we've got one single view. So generally good progress across CRSTS. We have we're at a stage of the programme now where we're just over halfway through, and we start to see more and more coming forward into delivery, and we start seeing major delivery construction in play across the region, which is really good. At this point, it becomes a requirement really to gain some real confidence in the remainder of the programme to be delivered to time, cost and budget. And make sure that we get confidence across the programme, so not just locally, but certainly across the region, and work together as a partnership to make sure that we can deliver what we committed to. Some sort of good work across active travel in particular, a couple of strategic cases being completed, which is really great, and more projects on the ATF schemes coming into the end of their development phase for completion, such travel come through. We've got rail and metro programmes delivering major construction at the moment on the ground, so spades in the ground across quite a number of DFWM major projects that are making good progress. So overall, pretty good progress in the quarter. As I say, ATF, good progress according to the recent feedback. It is worth the committee noting that the current dashboard is based on most recent feedback on programmes of work. And in some cases, their most recent feedback was a couple of months ago. So it's just worth noting that these are sort of indicative trends and RAG statuses as risks. Risk is an area of the programme we'll start to see increase now, and that's largely because we're getting into delivery phases more and more. That's a very common trend, and usually an upward one, and get into the serious construction delivery phase for any major project. But it's not a surprise to us to see an increasing risk profile. But the work that we're doing now across the regions and what we'll do with local authorities to get a bit more granular information on risk management should help us to manage the risk across programmes. So it's like a good level practice to get across the programme. It also helps us to identify opportunities where we can support any risk management and kind of get in front of things that might be caused by delay on the programme further down the line. So 4 key programme risks that we're kind of taking a more granular look at now are on budget pressures, delivery performance, cross-programme delivery performance, dependency management, and concurrent project delivery. We're delivering across the region simultaneously in some cases, and that brings those are the main points for the report. With some detail on some of the successes there. We have the dashboard there. It's an indicative dashboard at the moment. I understand it's in grayscale. That was a request from the committee last time round, hence things being not acronyms too often, but we'll probably need to provide a glossary, I think, next time around to give people easy reading, I think. So we'll look to do that. And some considerations on some recent successes actually that's been really good, particularly on Metro. So we do plan to bring some media to PDOS alternative meetings to demonstrate some of the good work that's happening on the ground. Let's not forget that in amongst the rest. So that's it.
Thank you very much, Jenny. I'm sure we've already wished you a speedy recovery, and from your accident. Would you like to add anything?
Just to add that obviously as a scrutiny committee, you're interested in all of the programmes that the Combined Authority is the accountable body for, and what we're trying to do with what Jenny's just explained is to make sure that you've got full visibility of all projects that are being delivered using the Combined Authority financial resources. So that's across all of the local authorities and Transport for West Midlands who are doing the development and the delivery, and we're trying to put it into this format. So you've got an overall summary, and you can sort of also within your member engagement group, we can go into sort of any deep dives as well that you'd like to do on any specific particular aspects. There is obviously quite a big spreadsheet of all of the different projects, which is not included in this high level reporting, and that's probably something that we would want to take you through as part of one of your member engagement groups as well.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed, Dan. And yes, I would like this to influence MEG scrutiny champions in how they actually set the agenda for their own individual MEGs. And Jenny alluded to it right at the beginning, but I've asked I've asked officers to give a brief presentation of the report first, on the assumption that members have had the paperwork in advance and have actually read the papers to make these meetings more efficient. I've got a number of councillors indicating, so I will get round to you all, but first I'm going to call Councillor McNicholas.
Thank you, Chair. Anne has answered my question, and that is utilising MEGs far more effectively. I used the Solihull station outline business case as an example that can very easily go to the rail MEG itself for that in-depth that we don't have the time for. But what that says to me, that this paper can be split in various ways to ensure that all the MEGs are involved and have the opportunity to have an input on behalf of the committee. So I think that's a very helpful contribution from Ms. Shaw.
Absolutely, and I've asked as chair that the MEGs become more professional in terms of using the information from this committee to actually influence again decisions that the Combined Authority Board will make in the future, hence the Combined Authority Board forward programme and plan.
The only other point I wanted to make here is that we're a transport delivery, overview and scrutiny committee. So we do have quite an important brief.
I think we all have an important brief and all members have an important part to play. So thank you very much for those comments, John. Councillor Clements.
Thanks very much, Chair. Yeah, and thanks very much. Welcome this report, and I think overall lots of really good progress, particularly on Sprint. And it's great to see the visuals, of the metro work progressing. But I have got some concerns. So on the risks that were outlined, which are primarily in city regional sustainable transport settlement delivery, that we haven't got enough money to fund all the existing projects. So that's flagged up as two of the risks. So what process is going on to review and reprioritise, and what plans have you got to involve this scrutiny committee in that process? And then on the active travel schemes, just some questions about the pace of delivery. I've noticed that you're recruiting a new head of active travel delivery. That's sort of a live recruitment. That's good to see. Hopefully somebody will be there to sort of crack the whip over the councils that are delivering these projects. But how quickly is that recruitment going to take place, and what impact do you think it will have?
Thank you very much. Call Jenny in to answer those questions, but I'm going to say this is another reason for the member engagement groups being able to have a deep dive for exactly the reasons that you've outlined, Councillor Clements. Jenny.
Great.
Do you want me to do these two, Jenny? Yeah. Okay. So obviously the looking at the capital budget pressures, and I was going to pick this up under the last item on the forward plan as well, because we do have a board report that is going on the 19th of July, which is tackling the budget pressures that we've got on a number of projects in flight, which comes up with the strategy about how we're going to continue to deliver those and through an element of over programming and change controls, and also planning across the full CRSTS 10-year period. So that's CRSTS 1, which we're currently live in, and CRSTS 2, which will take us up to 2032 as well, to make sure that we can continue to deliver all of the projects with other funding as well. So that will be subject to a board report on the 19th of July that I was going to pick up under the last item on the forward plan. I think fair to say that we haven't had the opportunity, given the timings of this committee alongside the board reports that are going in July, to do what we would normally do with the member engagement groups, to take you through the detail of that as well. And what I've asked, or what I've confirmed to Councillor Huxtable, is that we will make sure that the scrutiny members here have all of those reports sent to them as soon as they're published on Thursday as well. And then we can hold any sort of briefing briefings through the member engagement groups on these as well. Going forward on all reports that are coming through, we will use the member engagement groups to get your thoughts and opinions before drafting reports to make sure that they're taken into consideration and documented in the board report as well. It's just unfortunate that the timings of this committee, along, you know, setting things up post local elections, etc., we haven't had the opportunity to do that. So that's on that one. In terms of the head of active travel delivery, yeah, this is to help and support our local authorities to keep things moving and coming into delivery as well. It's out to recruitment now, Councillor Clements, and obviously whoever the successful candidate is will either be appointed straight away, or if they've got a notice period from whatever current role they're in, they will generally come and after that notice period has been worked through. Traditionally, it ranges between a month to 3 months, dependent on where they currently are. But it will help keep pace moving things forward.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Clements?
Well, am I allowed a quick supplementary? I just wanted to ask Anne, is there are you going to review the single assurance framework and how that works alongside local authorities, sort of project management and approval processes? Because that all seems to be quite cumbersome and very slow. And I just wonder if we can streamline that. Then I've got a couple of, just the other point on, in terms of the RAG ratings report, I absolutely online as a PDF. I think it would be much more readable with the colours restored. And also throughout the report, I've got some questions about whether the RAG rating actually corresponds with what's written in the text. But that's something that I can pick up outside the meeting with officers. Thank you.
Yeah. So in terms of the single assurance framework, that is a government agreed scheme. So and obviously as part of moving into Trailblazer devolution, single settlement and funding as well, that's been strengthened in terms of that. I think my discussions with local authority colleagues is there are some issues with how things are put together before they're issued into the appraisal team. So there's lots of people within the sort of enabling services within the combined authority who need to have an input into the drafts before they're formally submitted. And we've already recruited somebody into Sandeep's team who is helping to coordinate that, to support the local authorities in working within the SAF. And then the other end of the framework is also then the funding agreements. We also have funding agreements that are the same detailed agreements for every single pot of funding that the local authorities receive. So I have been having some discussions with our finance colleagues to see whether or not there is a method that we could try to improve that as well, so that funding is made available quickly within the funding agreements once all of the appraisals through the single assurance framework have been signed off as well. So we do know that there are issues within the process and we're trying to, we're already tackling some things to try and help make that easier.
Thank you, Anne.
Thanks, Anne. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Clements. I do note you, Councillor Hyde. I'm going to call Councillor Kay in first.
Thank you, Chairman. I've got 3 points, if I may. On the dashboard, page 19 of the pack, there are quite a lot of projects, both in quantity and value, all grouped together under Transport for West Midlands. I'm unclear as to whether the RAG ratings are the whole of the projects, or whether they're the average of the projects, or whether they relate to some projects which are causing concern. Now, I know that the MEG will look into this in great detail, but I just wonder if this committee would value that particular dashboard item to have more granularity.
Did you have some other points as well, Councillor Kay?
Yes, if I may. The hidden costs, the significant feature of the numbers and the report is that quite a lot of our projects are behind time in schedule, and quite the reasons are either tend to be because of specific hold-ups waiting for something, or it might be just general construction delays. So there's really quite 2 separate reasons for the delay. And I just wonder whether the future dashboard might actually give us some indication of which one it is. There is a hidden cost to these delays in terms of the disruption to the public and to businesses, where projects are being delayed. And I would like ourselves to receive assurance that before we lay the first road cone or cut the first turf, that all the ducks are in a row regarding the permissions, ordering materials and everything, so that we can reduce the cost to the public by making sure that we're on site and off site in for the particular phase at the speediest time possible. My third point is that we've got 12.5 million over budget or over actual at the moment. We can mitigate some of these overruns by moving things around but at some stage a project overrun is presumably going to be of concern to the 151 officer or 70 whatever officer. And I feel that the dashboard might indicate as to how close to the wind we are overall on terms of budget and overall.
Are you going to pick these ones up again, Anne?
I can probably defer the first two to Jenny and the last one to Kate.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm going to call Jenny first and then Kate.
Thank you. Yeah, those points are absolutely noted. It was one of the things in the sort of substantive narrative in the report that it was a progressive dashboard. And this sort of narrative, well, this demonstration, I suppose, of where we are currently in the budget with CRSTS in particular, only really tells you a part of the financial story. One of the things that we're doing internally at the moment with our finance colleagues is looking at producing how we can get a forecast that talks to actual versus forecast spend across the whole life cycle of the programme. This broadly just talks to how much has been spent already in comparison to how much we have. It doesn't tell you the full story of where a project might be or what other risks might be impacting where it is in its spend profile. So certainly I think particularly through the MEGs we can create some better visibility there, or certainly some explanations about where we are with certain projects when anyone is worried or wants to scrutinise them further, we'll be able to do that. Just to answer your point on RAG status, we'll be having discussions with the local authorities on the criteria that we're using for the dashboard. It's programme representation. I'm very keen to make sure that we have a programme agreement on the criteria that we're using. So this dashboard is indicative criteria at the moment, is what we're going to suggest. And it is based on an aggregate. So it's an average trend for the RAG status at the moment based on the most recent reports. It's not project by project. So it also is almost skewed by proportionality. So proportionately speaking, TFWM have the biggest budget to spend and the most projects in delivery at this point in time. Therefore, it's likely they'll see a higher trend for risk and a higher trend against baseline. So that'll be quite normal as we move through the project and the programme, sorry, and we'll see that sort of coming forward in other local authorities at certain points. But the benefit of looking at it this way and also talking to the programme rather than project specific data all the time is that we can then identify those opportunities in the programme so that we can better balance the programme with successful delivery. So that's the benefit of bringing these things forward and just creating that better visibility and ownership.
Just to add what Jenny said, I think through the member engagement group and a more detailed list of the projects would give that granularity that's just been requested as well. So that's something that we are working on and we could deliver within the next member engagement group as well.
And before I call Kate, when officers note comments from members, I would always like them to not merely note them, but to follow up on the point that they've actually made and let the councillor or indeed the committee know what further actions have been put in place rather than merely noting them.
Yeah.
Okay. So we, as I say, I'm keen to run it on a more professional basis. Kate.
Yes, we are very interested around kind of at that point where it may be that the budget is not sufficient in there. I think as you've heard from Jenny, we work very closely with the delivery team. So the finance information is one part of the story. We're always trying to triangulate that information. We have a discipline here. We close every month end except for month one. So we are always very on top of the year-to-date speed, spend even for it, and the quarterly forecasting that allows us to kind of project forward and then have those conversations with the delivery teams and triangulate with the information that now Jenny is providing to allow us to assess that position. We meet kind of regularly with the senior team as well. So there's a lot of interaction and using information that we have.
Okay. Satisfied, Councillor Clay?
Yes, thank you. I'll look forward to future iterations of the dashboard.
Okay, good. I'm going to call Councillor Hyatt now in.
Thank you very much, Chair, because this indicates the disadvantage of having just an overview. In Wolverhampton, we have 2 metro stations now, one at the station, forming a travel hub, but the previous one at St George's has been closed for months, and nowhere does that feature. I mean, it just remains unable to be used. And the metro line that goes to the station too, that hasn't quite been completed. The cycle shed hasn't been opened. The lights haven't been sorted. And I've only just visited today where there has been some elements of making the terrain more suitable for bikes. Really good. But it's taken a really, really long time. It's almost as if you've moved on to the next project. And that's the one we're focusing on now, and that's the one we're reporting on, rather than finishing off the projects in hand.
Now, and before Jenny comes back, this is what I would like Megs to actually go in. So I'm sure the comments have been noted by the new Scrutiny champion for rail, metro, and sprint in terms of Wolverhampton and St George's. But Jenny.
Can I come in as well? Sorry. I know it's difficult with me not being in the room, but I can't walk at the moment. Just to say that I was actually at Wolverhampton Station the other day when I was over in Wolverhampton Council building. The lights have now gone in and are operational, and I also saw some photographs last week of the cycle hub in use as well at the station. So as far as I'm aware, they are in use. There are a number of outstanding things that are there to be completed. St George's stop is one of them, sort of reopening St George's, and we're working with colleagues at Wolverhampton Council to look at that as well. I put a timeline around it. It's not been forgotten about. It is still part of the project, but it's aligned with some of the other things that we're doing with Wolverhampton in terms of wider sort of regeneration proposals in that area, and also planning and scheduling the services that will run through to the Wolverhampton station. When St George's is open, the trams will be split between serving St George's or serving Wolverhampton station. So you'll have a lower frequency at Wolverhampton station as you've currently got at the moment as well. There is a number of other things that are also planned as part of the Wolverhampton interchange project, which is included the refresh of Wolverhampton train station, the delivery of the metro, and then a whole load of public realm and other improvements that are being managed through Wolverhampton Council itself as well. So in terms of all the works that are due to be completed down there, they're part of a bigger programme of works that we're working with Wolverhampton colleagues on as well. So some things that you've mentioned, I think, have already been completed, but there are other things that we do need to do. But I just wanted to reassure you, Councillor Hyatt, that they are not being forgotten about, and we're proactively working on them with our colleagues through the Wolverhampton Interchange programme.
Is that okay, Councillor Hyatt?
I'm not sure about the inside of the cycle hub. I know the outside of the cycle hub is being used. I don't believe the inside is at the moment. The lights I'm really glad to hear about, although I thought was to be more lights put by the cycle hub.
Yeah, so I will find out the answers on the cycle hub, but that was delivered by Wolverhampton Council itself as well as part of the Wolverhampton Interchange programme. So we'll get you the details on that from our colleagues at Wolverhampton.
I think I can get those myself, and
Okay.
I to raise this point by our transport officer, who would have been well aware of the situation herself as well. St George's has been closed for a long while now. Do you have an estimate when it's going to be opened?
Not to hand, Councillor Hyatt, but I will make sure that we provide you with that detail along with Marianne.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I know that you've indicated to speak again, Councillor Clem, but I'm going to ask councillors who haven't spoken first and then come back to you. So Councillor Akhtar.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I want to say thank you to Sandy and Jenny and Anne, because they did promise us last year, and to some extent, they have delivered, but not excellent, not good for the moment, because there are few things they left out. One is the glossary. I asked them a few times, please. And also you left out roadmap, because in last report, you've given us a report for 7 quarters. That's almost 2 years. So please, if you can put that in. And somebody already raised about the rat rating, if we can have it in color. Also, if you see these appendix, they are excellent, but they are very difficult to read. So if you can double the pages and then fold them, I think will do the trick. And especially this, I know it is very clear. It says currently under review for V3 outputs. I do understand that. And obviously we will discuss all this in May. But if you see West Midland Combined Authority sponsored and delivered schemes, don't forget, I want to remind my colleagues, and John said it also, we not only scrutiny, but also we need to make sure that the projects are delivered within time and within the budget. So that is crucial, isn't it? And if they're not, why not? Please, that is crucial. Now, on this page, Crest financial summary is doesn't give, it's very congested. It's not very clear. Right, please, if you can help us to sort this out. And I'm glad, because it's all about single view, and also you are not only incorporated Crest and active transport funding, but also you're thinking about future, about Crest 2 and about single settlement. That is excellent. But please, we need to know more about that. We had these projects, especially metro projects and sprint projects and bus projects and programs for a very long time. And we were struggling with funding, and now we got a Crest, as somebody said, over £1 billion. So where are the pressures? Anne said, that there will be a report, next report. So that also should be very, very clear. So it's easy for my colleagues, especially the new ones, so they can not only see whether we are successful delivering, and if the budget is for 1 year and timing is in 1 year, then we need to know why aren't we delivering within that time, sir. But please, this roadmap, you gave it to us, and you forgot, I think, here. It's excellent. It's good, because it's 7 quarters.
Yeah.
Easy. It's almost 2 years. But do it in color, do it in double size, make it easy so we can understand. Thank you.
Sandy.
Thank you, Councillor Akhtar, and it's always useful to have your insights into what is some very complicated reporting. We are talking about a very large programme that we are reporting on, and getting the balance right for all the information that needs to be presented. It will take us a few iterations to get there, but hopefully the committee can see that we're moving this in the right direction. You've mentioned the £1 billion plus. This is a large programme, so getting the level of information and getting it consistently is something that we've been working on very closely with our local authority colleagues as well. So we will continue to evolve it. We will take on board those comments around presentation and how we best present the dashboards. But at this stage, we thought it would be very useful to provide it, even if it's in a raw format, so at least you can see the type of information that is coming forward. And we will continue to work with you, in particular Megs. We'll have a big role in some of that more detailed information to make sure we can actually continue to evolve this in the right way going forwards.
So basically, to summarise, good start, room for improvement.
Yes.
Are you,
with your permission,
yes.
Also I asked information, not exactly a question, that we got £1 billion and these schemes, Westbury to Briley Hill, remember, we done the first phase up to Dudley and we got the funding. I mean, over £1 billion, also Birmingham East. So what's holding us up? Is it the funding or is it the construction work? Or these things we need to know. And glossary, please don't forget that.
Yes, yeah, and again, these are all the things that we will continue to pick up in terms of what some of those key drivers are when we are seeing delays. That is the whole point of dashboard, to get to that level of intervention. And of course, we will capture the glossary to make sure that there is no ambiguity around all the various acronyms that we are used to now.
Thank you very much. Councillor Ward. Thank you. I wanted to pick up a couple of different points. Firstly, on the risk section. So the risks all seem to fall within the two issues of, have we got the budget to actually deliver it? And can we actually manage all these schemes at the same time? Clearly, they're quite substantial concerns to have at this stage in the process. And so is there some more information that can be circulated to members so we can get a better understanding of what the organisation is doing to tackle those risks and whether the mitigations that are listed have actually started being done yet, and so we can see the impact those mitigations are having. Then the other suggestion is, and it's been touched on by others, I think it'd be really useful for all of the MEGs at their first meeting to get a breakdown of the projects that fall under that MEG from this financing, so we can make sure that all the MEGs know what they've got to cover. Thank you.
Yes, in short, the risks that have been articulated here on the dashboard are quite broad. They're strategic risk programme level risks, so we would expect them to be quite strategic in their nature and broad in terms of their mitigations. Mitigations have started, so just to reassure that that is the case, and that we will progressively now bring those mitigations forward with our local forest partners and TFWM team to make sure that we get best result for those things. You talked about them broadly being not having enough money and not being able to deliver as much time. That's a fair broad sweep, but in fairness, there is actually some nuance to how you manage project delivery concurrently and how you balance off dependency management between projects and programme, and how you seek overall delivery confidence in a full programme rather than project by project. I'll cite a previous success to this type of programme management, which would be the Commonwealth Games. We managed that as an integrated transport programme, which was 2 major operational programmes of work, and then an integration with hundreds of millions of pounds worth of capital infrastructure that needed to be delivered. And the benefit of delivering a programme like that in an integrated fashion, which is how we're doing this now, means that you can start balancing opportunities and risks, and you can start managing better supporting early risks, proactive management of risk. So I think we'll see a real benefit from working in that way as we move forward. Also, I don't think it is unusual to see this level of risk at this stage in a programme of this size. I think that's quite normal. Obviously, want to mitigate that risk as much as possible and drive things towards the baseline as much as possible. We're doing that, but we're actively, risk managing our projects, and we want to just ensure that across the programme that's the same approach everybody's using and get some consistency there. So there usually is an upturn in the risk profile at the stage of a major programme work like this. I would expect to see that. We'll tolerate more risk as a result, but as long as we're managing it effectively and actively, we should be in a better space as we get towards the end. So that'll be how we deal with it.
And as I'm sure members have noted on page 52 of the agenda papers, there is a report going to the CA board on the 19th of July from Jenny and Sandeep to raise awareness of the capital budget pressures across transport multimodal programmes. Okay, Councillor Clements.
Yeah, starts to stray into the finance report, but as I said when I spoke before, I was really like seeing the visuals of the metro extensions. But on the Birmingham East side, really, I think as Birmingham councillors, we really need to absolute guarantee that we've got the budget in place to finish that that project, because it's an absolute priority project for the city. And similarly on the railway stations, what is now the the timescale for actually opening the Camp Hill line stations, and with the extra resources that that we've got for capacity in the rail sector to actually deliver the wider programme of new stations. Thank you.
Who would like to take this one from the officers?
Do you want me to pick this up?
Thank you, Anne.
Yes, so in terms of the report that I mentioned earlier on budget pressures, that also highlights the timescales for some of the projects as well. At Birmingham East Side, as you know, Councillor Clements, we're doing the interim scheme at the moment, which is under construction. That would take us through to the Clayton Hotel. And we're still in discussions with HS2 around the method that we're going to take possession back of the land once they've completed the Curzon Station as well. So we're still working through the programme of delivery, the agreement that we need to reach with HS2 and the funding contribution that they will make to the further prolongation of that particular scheme as well. So all of that is in development at the moment, and as soon as we've got that information sorted through those discussions that we're having, we will be able to update you on those as well. But that's where we are with all of the projects. The report, as I've mentioned, that will go to the board on the 19th of July, will also have information in there about timescales for delivery of a number of the projects.
And the Camp Hill lines, Anne?
Camp Hill station?
Including the Camp Hill stations, yes.
Okay. Councillor McNicholas.
I'm pleased Councillor Alden supported the point about the breakdown for the MAGs. But now there is an urgency because the date has been fixed for the 19th of July for the combined authorities. And I think the champions should be aware of what the issues are for their particular MAG. So if that work can be done ASAP and let the champions know, that would be very helpful.
I was going to pick that up under item agenda 10.
But then it seemed to me that there's a further recommendation required that captures the discussions we've had about the MAGs, because they're not mentioned in the recommendations. And I think it's been a very helpful consensual discussion about the role of the MAGs, and that should be reflected in the recommendation itself. Thank you.
I wholeheartedly agree with that's Councillor Nicholas. I don't see anyone else indicating to speak either physically or virtually, so I am therefore going to move on to item 9. The officer.
Have we agreed the recommendations?
So, can we agree the recommendations with the amendment from Councillor Nicholas?
Agreed.
Okay.
Agreed.
Good. Excellent. I'm going to move on to item 9 then, which is the financial monitoring report. Kate will do the presentation. Then I will call Councillor Akhtar as the scrutiny champion for finance and performance in. There will then be a general discussion, and then I will ask Councillor Akhtar to do any summary comments he may or may not have. Thank you. Kate.
Thank you, Chair. So the report that you have is the 2023-24 outturn report that has already gone to CA board as part of the wider combined authority position in June. So I will, in this one, talk more about the revenue because we've already had quite a long discussion around the capital in the previous item and picked up a number of items there. From a revenue perspective, there was a positive position at the year end, so a surplus of 3.5 million, which was a favourable variance from budget. There were 3 main items driving that favourable variance. So the first was additional advertising income. So we have an advertising contract with various advertising bus stations in our estate. And we had a windfall effectively that came in the last quarter of that. We had a provision which was relating to the Dudley bus station. So you'll be aware that that project is now, the redevelopment is underway. As that bus station has now been, or the old building has been demolished, that releases a financial commitment for us. So that allows us to receive that provision back into our accounts there. And also savings of 1.4 from the Metro subsidy from Metro Midlands Metro Limited due to various lower costs, particularly driven by power. They had renegotiated their power contract post informing us of the subsidy in there, and also an adjustment due to their external audit. These results are subject to external audit, which will be happening over the summer and reported later to ARAC in the year. For there, we have continued where there are savings on concessions and across the budget to move those savings into reserve. That is that we've agreed with the board of strategy. So we put them into the transport risk reserve, and that allows us to build up some resilience against shocks, for example, around the bus network, and allows us to enable us to support that bus operator network agreement. Capital, I say we've already had a relatively long discussion around capital, but just to note, obviously the performance in year was behind budget quite significantly, but not that far behind the Q3 forecast, which I think is indicative of all the work that the team have done and the work that we continue to do around refining those forecasts and the numbers that go into there. So I will leave that there.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, as I said, Councillor Akhtar, any comments as Scrutiny champion?
Chair, I mean, obviously, it's a good report that at the end of the day, we have saved some money. As Kate pointed out, there is a favorable variance. But my colleagues who were with me last year, we were always on the edge. Always on the edge. That how we going to balance the budget, how we going to safeguard our network, especially the buses. The whole system is broken. We mostly rely from the government to fund us, and they also always kept us at the nervous breakdown at the very last minute. We used to get the funding to safeguard the network, and as I said, the whole system is broken. The buses are not reliable. Even they're not even affordable. And Chair, you know, and I know, and all of us know, the buses are crucial to our economy, to our community, to tackle air pollution and congestion. But we are in a mess. And far as this year's budget, we have balanced the budget, but we have 250 million stability grant for 5 years, and we used over 28.4 million pounds to balance the budget. Now, next year, I think it's over 60 million we are in deficit. And in 28-29, we are 100 million pounds in deficit. Now it's up to us as a politician. So I'm not going to criticize officers. They do their best to get the grants, to get the funding. But it's a complete, total failures of politicians and of our governments, successive governments, because we have a deregulated system, which is always money going to shareholders rather than pumping back into our system and having a network, a safe guarding network which provides facilities and bus service which is useful, which is capable. And as I said, transport is integral part to our economy and to our communities. And if we want to level up, but for the moment, the whole system is broken. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for those comments. I suspect, Pete, that some of the financial pressures alluded to.
And the fares have gone up also.
By Councillor Akhtar, including the fares issue, but also investment into the network will be covered by the bus options presentation tomorrow, hopefully. But do you want to add anything to Councillor Akhtar's comments?
So I suppose just picking up on the point that this financial report, as Kate alluded to, is an outturn of 2023-2024, which is how we balanced against those investment pieces that have been put into place to secure the existing network. That's notwithstanding the fact that members will be shared information tomorrow, which supports some of the challenges around how we ensure through 2024-25 the sustainability of the existing network, as well as the reform options and the bus delivery options that sit in front of the combined authority going forward. So absolutely take those comments on board. We continue to work with government and any other funding source to try and identify funds that can sustain and support the bus network in the region, which we've been relatively successful in doing to date. In comparison to lots of other areas of the country, but we are aware of the challenges that we face, and we will bring in further questions, which also then will need to go onto the Combined Authority board to seek clarity around how that funding and the wider funding reserves and things that Councillor Actor talks to are going to be utilised through 24-25 and beyond.
And I suspect two key issues will be one, the cap of the bus fare £2, which expires this December, and what happens in the future, and two, the imminent spending review, whenever that might be, but scheduled for March 25, but may be brought forward.
Indeed, and that's something that's because the £2 funding cap is a central government initiative then through to that timescale, and that's negotiated directly with the industry. So we await clarification of that. Obviously, we are in the early days of the formation of the new government. So I'm sure those conversations will start to follow through, and as well clarity around spending reviews and how that will work with regards to bus services and local transport.
Okay, thank you very much, Pete. Again, number of members indicated to speak. I will get round to you all. Councillor Hyatt.
Thank you very much, Chair. On table 4.8, you can see that sustainable travel variance is 80% of budget. That's 80% of the money that hasn't yet been spent. That means that budget is open to pressures just because inflation means that you get to do less the longer that you wait to spend your money. It may perhaps have significance, and maybe this money may not be available to spend the longer that we leave it there. I asked our transport manager, strategic manager, and he said quite often it takes a very long time to go through all the due processes, due diligence, to go from A to B to actually get the money to get everything, spent really, to get the project happening. I wondered if this had been noticed by any of the officers, that the projects can take a very long while to get from the stage when they're thought of and presented to the stage when you say, yes, come on, let's make it happen and let's spend that money. And then my only other point was that I noticed 4.2, it said about a new lease contract being agreed with Dudley Bus Station as a way that raised money rather than demolishing the building and that not needing to be spent, costing us any money. I just wondered if you could explain that a bit more. But really, it's the 80% because it's huge, isn't it?
Kate.
Okay, I'll just take the bus station one is probably easier. So that is the provision element that I spoke about earlier. So that's what links into that effectively, because we've demolished the old station. That releases us from a commitment that we had previously with the old link. So that removes that financial liability out and where that creates money. In terms of the schemes on sustainable transport, there are some pretty significant schemes that are in there. One is around the EV caps project, which is looking at charging stations across there, and that is dependent on identification and acquisition of suitable sites for there. So that is managed by our investment and commercial director. They are working very heavily on that scheme, and the CMV contactless payment broker as well, which is progressing as it should be and on time at the moment. For that, it is currently in a procurement stage for it. So the projects are, and we monitor those. Clearly, where they are behind, that is of concern to us, and we will push project teams for that. One of the things we talk around that is the better budgeting process as well. It doesn't take much, a procurement falling a few months behind can actually push a significant amount of spend because we can't make that financial commitment in there, or a land acquisition not happening can actually create quite a multi-million-pound difference on there. In terms of process, ultimately we can progress the schemes through the single assurance framework as fast as we can for there, but the schemes need to be brought to us, so the business cases have to be presented. Once they are presented, they will move through the assurance process through the various committees, depending on their financial value. It will depend which committees they need to go to, but we are reliant on those cases being brought forward to us in the first place and actually presented to the team to do that.
Okay, and Dudley Bus Station?
I'll just have that one at the beginning. That's the provision that's been released on there.
Right. Okay. And you come back, Councillor Hyde?
No, just to say thank you for that window of view, perspective on what's happening. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair, can I just, if I may, just come in very quickly?
Of course.
And backdrop is a really important one around performance and how do we actually deliver projects on time for budget. And this is what we're really trying to mature across the West Midlands, given the scale of what it is that we're trying to deliver. I don't need to remind many councillors who are sat around this table that a lot of our metro projects started in the 90s, and it does take an awful long time. There's an awful lot of lessons learned from the development and delivery of those projects to help inform how we develop our next round of capital projects, which are, they're not completely time limited, but we do have funding windows that we need to work within. We also need to think about the capacity of the system as a whole in terms of being able to deliver these projects effectively and making sure they are the right projects that do what they need to do. And along comes with that all the processes that we need to go through. So whilst the SAF process is pretty much the back end of that and providing that assurance, we also want to make sure that we're getting the early parts of those projects right, particularly in things like consultation, engagement, making sure that these are being built up from the bottom up as well as the top down, and layering that into those overarching processes that we have. I'd like to think that we are definitely moving in the right direction. There's still work to do, but there is an awful lot of lessons learned from what we've delivered over the past few years and the things that are still in delivery that is absolutely being applied now.
And to Ms. Quota, former Prime Minister, it's all about delivery, delivery, delivery. Councillor Coe.
Thank you, Chair. I note that the child concession is 20% under budget. I'm wondering whether that is because of lack of demand or lack of provision, and whether there are any comments about that.
I would like to take that one.
It is under budget. Obviously, it is demand driven, and Peter will be able to talk a little bit more about how that demand has gone.
So that's also, the child concession is on a negotiated process with bus operators as well. So through the negotiation process, which takes place each year, there is a level that's set for the amount that's given out, and that can be negotiated with operators as it goes based on historical patterns and forecasts. So it's a combination of the mechanism that's been applied with operators and the demand from customers and levels of use. Part of that has also been driven as well by the different options of tickets that have been taken up. So been a little bit skewed with the demand that's come from the government cap of the £2 as to which tickets are being purchased by which individuals. So we've seen quite a different demand take up across the network through the period of the last 18 months while we've had this single fare cap in as well.
Thank you. Supplementary, Chair.
Yes, Councillor Nicholas.
Page 35, there's a paragraph on concessions. And the National Concessionary Scheme is a saving of 7.6 million, with 0.2 million going into a risk reserve in recognition of significant pressures around the transport network. What does that mean in terms of, is that risk reserve specific, or will it be transport across the piece? Can those monies be used anywhere on anything?
So effectively our reserves go at earmarked reserves. We use those with the permission of board effectively. So we will put a proposal forward to board, and board will approve that proposal for be used. We have put that in a transport risk reserve. That is to, and we have used that historically more for bus, but we've sometimes used it for capital as well. So there's been a variety of uses that we have historically used it for. Generally at the moment, particularly around concessions, we are putting it in a risk reserve that we are using to support the bus network. But it can be used to support any of our transport activities, as long as board are happy with that approach.
Basically, it's not ring fenced.
It's no, it's not, because we don't ring fence, it's earmarked rather than ring fence. Yeah.
Okay.
Back pocket, Chair.
Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, big bus project is going on for so long, and have you got any completion date I was just passing through and I see there's a lot of building work, road work going on, and they're digging up the completion work. I don't know what's going on there. So is there any update on that? And plus, Mr. Akhtar mentioned that there's a lot of issues and concerns. And what is the best way forward of those projects not completed on time? And could you give us time scale on these projects when these will be completed?
Thank you, Councillor, for the question. I will pick up and come back to you on the various parts around Digbeth. There's obviously a number of projects that are going on in that space. We have the metro works that are there as part of the Birmingham East Side extension, and that is being delivered in a number of sections. But there is also a significant amount of work that is related to High Speed 2 and the building of Curzon Street Station, which is largely limited to utilities and highway works at the moment as well. But I will come back to you with the programme around the Birmingham East Side extension elements of that at least.
Okay, Councillor Chowdhury?
Yeah.
Okay, Lindsay has noted this as an action point. Councillor Clements.
Yeah, thanks, Chairman. I've got concerns that I've already raised about the pressures in the capital budget, but I want to come on to the revenue side because obviously, the first line of the revenue budget is that the standstill on the transport levy, and I just think we need Scrutiny Committee to think about the implications of that for our transport ambitions for the whole West Midlands CA. And yes, I know an alternative source of funding was found last year to make up the interest increase, but I believe we should be we should be challenging the mayor and council leaders on planning for expansion of that budget, because obviously I wait with bated breath to hear Pete's briefing on bus options tomorrow, but whatever we do to I hope revolutionise bus delivery is going to take a while, and we're going to continue to be in the situation where when operators depart from routes which they deem to be non-commercial, we're going to need the revenue budget to subsidise socially important routes, and also funding to support the non-statutory discretionary fare scheme. So I am really concerned about that attitude amongst our own leaders to the transport levy. And I think we make comparisons with Greater Manchester, but the reality is our transport levy contribution is about 2/3 of Greater Manchester and Liverpool. And you can't have Manchester style integrated transport network without the Manchester style funding. And it's probably just more of a comment really, but I think we will need to reflect on that and take it away back to our own councils. And on the bus network, I sat on the Bus Alliance in the last couple of years, and it was really, to me, really distressing that money that was coming in through the Buses Improvement Fund, which was supposed to be entirely about improving passenger experience and other things, aspects of the network, ended up going straight into the coffers of the private operators. So I just think that the comments that have been made by other colleagues and officers about they're just the crisis in bus funding are absolutely apt, and we must move forward to a more stable footing there. I mean, I was able to do my complete general election campaign going to marginal. I did it mainly by bus. It is possible to do it, but the network is, particularly in the Black Country, is just nowhere near dense enough to make bus travel a realistic alternative for most people who've got access to a car. And then the other thing that goes back to the discussions about delivery, that unless we give buses priority on the roads, they're not going to be an attractive option of either, because grinding through traffic jams, particularly through the Birmingham conurbation in the Black Country, really is a disincentive to using them. Thanks very much.
Thank you for your comments, Councillor Clements. Again, which officer would like to pick up on those? But while they think about that, yes, it is our role as an Overview and Scrutiny Committee, I feel, to hold the Mayor's feet to the fire in terms of transport funding, and to make those messages loud and clear. What is he going to do over his term of office in terms of transport funding over not just all modes of transport, but also active travel as well? So with that comment, which officer would like to take it? Kate.
Just noted around the long-term risk. We've always been very clear about what the long-term funding gap is from an officer perspective. Obviously that gap is still there, and we are due to start conversations with the mayor and leaders at the end of this month, beginning of August, around that, obviously in the normal course of cycle running into the 25-26 budget and the NTF clean process.
Okay, thank you very much, Kate. Councillor Alden hasn't spoken, and then I'll come back to you, Councillor Hyde. Councillor Alden.
Thank you very much. The revenue issues have been picked up and covered in quite some depth already, so I won't repeat them, but clearly we need to make sure that there's sustainability in the revenue funding of the organisation to ensure that we don't have to rely upon one-off budgets to be able to balance the books each year. I just wanted to pick up two other points on 4.8 and the table. Under the Metro, we've obviously got a number of schemes that are being rescheduled works. What assurances can we get that the budget that remains for those schemes will be sufficient for the rescheduling for them to be delivered? And then under bus, it talks about there's been a re-evaluation of the Coventry Electric Bus programme. But that is coming after over 50% of the budget has already been spent. So can someone just explain what is that re-evaluation and does that have any budgetary implications? Thank you.
I'll pick up the latter one first, if that's okay, with regards to Coventry Electric Bus. So the re-evaluation there is to do with fleets and numbers. So as has been talked about today with regards to the bus network, there have been some changes and shifts in terms of numbers, vehicle allocations, fleet utilisation of routes, and the proposed routes that will operate from when the Electric City is due to complete, which is from the end of 2025. So this has been working with the operators to look at what their fleet numbers are for procurement around different types of buses, double decks, single decks, operators as well, and then looking about how we procure the tendered services as well. One of the key issues that was noted through the Coventry Electric Bus project, because it was the first of its kind where an entire city would become electrified, one of the key issues that was understood was that once you electrify with public funding, the private fleets and depots of operators, you effectively lock out any competition from that date forwards. So therefore, there is a proposal for an element of the fleet to be tendered, as with the tendered bus services, so that operators can bid into that fleet and operate services as well. So all of those things have come together, and that's what reflects the change. There's also been, as you would anticipate with everything else over the last couple of years, changing cost associated with some of the vehicle elements too. So we've seen some price increases from bus manufacturers to be different than they were initially set out in the original business case.
So does that mean there's now less buses planned than on the original bid because of that change in cost?
There is a smaller percentage of buses overall, but when you take into account the tendered buses, it's marginal. But we've got the details as well if you want to go.
Thank you.
Okay, and Councillor Hyde.
Very much, Chair. I thought that someone else might be asking this question, so I didn't. When you look at the grants to local authorities in transport, the budget was at 1,282,000, whatever it is, thousands, lots of thousands. Only 65063 was given. Why didn't we hand over to the local authorities the grants that were budgeted to be handed over? If the variance, I mean, it's nearly half. We've only handed over by more than half the local authority.
Some parts of that, which is we allocate the programme out, so we will have allocated our various transport programmes. We only then release the funds once the business case has been approved. So once the business case and we are satisfied that it is the business case meets all the requirements, we would then release funds. In most cases, I think Anne picked up earlier kind of around this nuance, we then release the expenditure based on quarterly returns received in arrears from the local authorities. So we will only release spend when the local authorities, so if the local authority teams are not spending, then we will not release that money. So if they are behind budget, then we will not release the expenditure out there. So they get what they.
So with your permission, Chair. So that means if you've got a local authority that's short of money, that may put a project on hold because they can't afford to spend that money because they're going to get the money back in arrears. Is that what you're saying? So the local authority has to spend the money and then they pay it back every year.
Yes, that is. I mean, clearly, if there was a significant challenge with an authority, then we meet with finance directors, weekly for there. So if there was, but we, from an accountability perspective, mirror the conditions usually that we are provided by central government. So all of the finance arrangements are always agreed upfront in any funding agreement. So local authority is aware of what it is signing up to around its conditions for payment and claim. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Kettle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Page 31, item 49, concerning Coventry South regeneration project. Can you get the numbers there? I come to 83.5 million, and this is only part of the scheme as far as the report. It's picking up on what former speakers have already mentioned about physical drag, and the comment there is that the activity will be reprofiled or reprofiled means price increases and delay. Just when was this scheme accepted? And what was the total cost of the scheme? If half of it or part of it is 83.5 million, what was the total part of the cost of the original scheme?
So Coventry City Centre South is actually part of our original investment programme schemes that came through. So it is a scheme managed by Coventry rather than delivered by the combined authority. So I can get further details on that. It is part of a wider scheme around the regeneration of the city centre in Coventry.
Can we trace officers from Coventry City Council to give that information as soon as possible, please? Councillor Clements, I'm going to call you in again, and then afterwards I'm going to, because no one else has indicated to speak, I'm going to call upon Councillor Akhtar to make any sundry comments as to scrutiny.
Thanks, Chair. It's just a quick question about the highways maintenance block funding, which is now being distributed through to the CEA through CRSTS. Does it include any payment to Birmingham? Because obviously I know that may be in abeyance because of the judicial review outcome and so on. But is there any update on that, please, from Anne? And then I also noticed on the West Midlands Cycle Hire Scheme, obviously there was a recent decision to continue subsidising that. But is there any progress on finding a sponsor, as in London, where Santander sponsors the scheme, so that it will be viable on a longer term basis? Thank you.
Okay, I can pick up on the PFI issue. So the CRSTS funds for highway maintenance block, none of that goes to the Birmingham City Council. For this year, though, because of the outcome from the judicial review, DLUC are going to be providing Birmingham City Council with the full funding for this year for the PFI, and obviously there is ongoing matters around that as well. So hopefully, Councillor Clements, that answers the question.
And Pete?
Just also to pick up additionally on the question about the cycle hire sponsorship scheme. So no, I can't report at this moment in time that we have an additional sponsor for the scheme. It continues to be a matter of discussion and dialogue with potential sponsors, and also looking ahead for any potential future contracts and contract management arrangements. So we have some discussions ongoing, but no clarification to be able to provide, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you. As I said, Councillor Akhtar, any comments you'd like to make? I think the Coventry City Centre South regeneration project should be very close to your heart.
It is, Chair, but I think I will let officers write to our officers and get a full explanation. I think it was £150 million. Actually, it was the original deal of devolution. Now, Chair, when it comes to revenue budget, as I said, we have been struggling for a very long time, and we've been under stress, and that is why we have unreliable far as bus network is concerned. Now, what is the answer? I disagree with my colleagues. Answer isn't the precept, mayor's precept. Answer isn't the transport levy, increase of transport levy, because we are going to hit our taxpayers. We are going to hit our very people who elected us, and we are guardian of taxpayers' money. And what's happening? What's happening is that we need, as many people said, long-term sustainable funding. We need to cut out the greed. And the greed is the deregulated system we have, where the money is taken out of the system. That's where the problem is. That's what Manchester done now. They cut out the greed. They are going to have a system which is regulated, where the passengers are in the center. It is providing services to their people. That's where the problem is. And don't forget, most of our communities we represent and who elect us, they are hit by cost of living crisis. You must remember that. Police now has to BSIP money, bus service improvement plan. The government allocated 80 million pounds, and Pete and his colleagues allocated roughly approximately 40 million pounds to operators. Otherwise, we would have lost last year 1/3 of the transport system. And he negotiated with the operators and safeguarded the network until end of this year, end of December 2024. Now, I want to ask officers on capital schemes, especially on Metro. Just one example, the full year budget was 231 million pounds, right? The underspend is 55 million pounds. That was the full year budget. Now, when it came to forecast, once again, we were 3.5 million pounds underspent. Now, I do understand, I have worked with officers. These are long-term projects and programs. And obviously, when you start digging underneath the ground, there are endless problems. We don't know what we will find. But still, there are risks and there are mitigations. And there are opportunities with these projects. But sir, we have to have some sort of a limitation, time limitation, that the project and program must be delivered within time and within a budget. So why is it massive, variances? All of these transport West Midland delivered capital schemes, they have massive variances, even against the budget and even against the forecast.
Okay, and before I call officers to actually respond to those final comments, if I'm correct, in terms of the WMCA official press release, after the increase in bus fares from National Express was announced, we did point out that they were still lower than Greater Manchester, if I recall, Pete, because I think you made that very point in your quotations.
Yeah, just a couple of points with regards to the bus reform and bringing in fares more widely. Appreciating the councillor's points on the financial commentary, just but the relation there to the link between Manchester and what Manchester are doing on buses. But as one of the councillors pointed out previously, there is a much higher proportion of levy in Greater Manchester that supports that network as well, and I think that's also worth us bearing in mind within the region. With regards to the fares increases and the bus fares increases, of course, any fares increases are difficult to manage, and what we saw in 2023 was fares increases that took place outside of the enhanced partnership that were around 12%. This year we have an enhanced partnership in place, so we are part of the enhanced partnership with bus operators. That doesn't mean that we wholly set the fares. It means that we have a mechanism with the private operators that allows them to put up relative fares as part of their own mechanism, that we are part of the programme that ensures oversight of that. And the reason for that is because bus operators, we have equitable fares set. So we have day tickets that are available now on all bus operators. Competition law says that operators cannot just do that individually and allow that to happen. It has to be facilitated through Transport for West Midlands. And within the deregulated framework that we have, the way that we manage that is allowing that to happen through a forum that we manage called Bus Operators Group. In terms of why that happens, then how that it relates to other fares in other parts of the country, we still have relatively low fares compared to lots of other parts of the country, including operators in Greater Manchester. But appreciate any fares increase impacts people's pockets, but nonetheless, still within the West Midlands, some of the best value tickets are still available. So it was that point that was pointed out in the press release.
Kate, in terms of capital programme and massive underspends?
I mean, I think we talked through a lot of the complexities that there are with the schemes in there and around how difficult some of those are and the work that we are now doing to get much more accurate schemes in there across all of them, not just combined operation, but also the ALA schemes as well.
Okay, thank you all. I'm going to move on to item 10, appointment of scrutiny champions and member engagement groups. For those new members, member engagement groups, I think, give us the opportunity to do a deeper dive into specific areas of this Transport Delivery Opening and Scrutiny Committee forms. Each member engagement group is made up of 5 members, but the invitation is extended to anyone on this committee to actually attend, either physically or virtually. And I would encourage members to attend as many as you're able to, because they're fascinating. What I would like to do as chair is to empower the scrutiny champions to take the work that has been undertaken on next further and deeper, and to get on with engaging with lead officers for those member engagement groups, and to meet as quickly as possible, given that they haven't met, as far as I'm aware, since March. I think, Dan, you wanted to cover a couple of things.
Yes, briefly, Chair, thank you. And you've covered a lot of it, but just to say that, I mean, we've heard on a number of occasions at this meeting of the value members place on the member engagement groups. And so yes, the committee will be pleased that we're continuing with those arrangements. Paragraph 4.1 sets out the 6 megs that exist, and the only other point I wanted to make was in paragraph 4.3, the reporting arrangements. So typically at every meeting of this committee, each meg will have an opportunity to report back, and the scrutiny champion will have an opportunity to report back on their meetings that were held in the preceding months. Ahead of this meeting this afternoon, the groups have provided me with the names of the 6 scrutiny champions, the members of each of the 6 megs, and so the recommendations within the report at 1.1 to read those as provided.
Would you like to read them out then, please?
If that is your wish, Chair, I can. So in order, the air quality, congestion and environmental impact meg, scrutiny champion is Councillor Ward, and then the other members are Councillors Nicholas, Hyatt, Alden and Huxtable. Finance and performance meg, scrutiny champion is Councillor Akhtar. The other members are Councillors Shergill, Hyatt, Kay and Chowdhury. Passenger first meg, scrutiny champion is Councillor McNicholas. The other members, Councillors Locke, Archer, Hussain and Sohal. Passenger and road safety meg, scrutiny champion Councillor Kay. And the other members, Councillor Wilkes, Singh, Clements and Alden. Vale Metro and Sprint meg, Councillor Alden is the scrutiny champion. The other members are Councillors Tucker, Millard, Archer and Huxtable. And finally, the sustainability and active travel meg, Councillor Hyatt is the scrutiny champion. Councillors Clements, Ward, Gethin, Kettle are the other members of that group.
Thank you very much for that, Dan. Councillor Nicholas, followed by Councillor Clements.
Just for clarity on the voting requirements indicated in 2.1. I read this as members are required to be in attendance, which I welcome, and it falls in line with TDOS committee itself. But am I reading it correctly?
Yeah, just to clarify, the voting requirement set out in 2.1 is in respect of agreeing this report that is in front of you, where, as members will know, you need to be in the room, present and in attendance. The member engagement groups themselves, they're not formal decision-making bodies. And so if they wish to make a decision or make a recommendation, that they will bring that to the subsequent Transport Scrutiny Committee that follows their member engagement. So the formal decisions are always taken at this committee. Each MEG can make recommendations, but the wording in the report is about decisions taken by this committee, and your correct members need to be present in the room rather than virtually.
Supplementary, Councillor Nicholas.
Yes, it is, Chair. Then perhaps another paragraph needs to be inserted in 2.1 to clarify that position, because there is a view that with the MEGs, it can be held online.
Yeah, we can do so. As I say, at each subsequent meeting, we'll have a MEG report, and I will make that clear within that, just to be absolutely clear in that MEG meetings can be hybrid, or if the scrutiny champion is happy with the hybrid arrangements, then that can happen.
And I would hope that it wouldn't come down to a vote at any MEG anyway. Councillor Clements.
Sorry, just forgot to unmute myself there after years of the using Teams. Yeah, just on the themes that we've chosen for these member engagement groups. The one that's passenger first, I assume that's passengers across all modes. But I just in the light of things that are gonna happen over the next few years, and the priority that the incoming mayor has placed on bus, and franchising and possibly municipal bus companies. I'm surprised that we haven't got a dedicated group about that, really. So is that something that we can think about over the next municipal year? Possibly look at maybe a task and finish group or something like that.
Thank you for your comments, Councillor Clements. The 6 themes, the 6 thematic groups, are the same as last municipal year, and I suspect the municipal year before that. More or less. I don't. It might be worth speaking to. I think Councillor Hyde was the previous chair of Passengers First, and before that, Councillor Locke. So it might be worth actually speaking to them, and they will be able to give greater clarity. But I'm always happy to review and consider how the member engagement groups could actually work better without imposing too much additional burden on officers. And I think 6 is the right number, but if we have to shift elements within them to make them work better, more than happy to give consideration to that. Councillor Archer.
Thanks, Chair. Actually, Councillor Clements has already made the point I was going to make, that bearing in mind the Mayor's stated ambitions, I was quite surprised, being new to this, I was quite surprised that there isn't one on bus services. But I hear what you say.
Yeah, well, I think bus services were mainly covered by Passengers First, and Councillor Hyatt is nodding that confirmation. But as I say, if we need to clarify, if we need to give extra consideration, more than happy to do so in the role of that member engagement group. And I would hope the scrutiny champions will take this opportunity on the member engagement groups to actually stamp their authority on it and empower them and make genuine and meaningful contributions so that we can actually engage with the CA board. Councillor Clements, you wanted to come back.
Yeah, it was just to say that obviously, the the committee's now the merged Scrutiny and TDC, but a lot of these member groups just feel like an inherited structure from the TDC. Obviously, I've got skin in the game because I chaired the Transport Scrutiny Committee when it was just a Transport Scrutiny Committee, not before its merged state. But I do think that we are can be quite powerful, and in this massive, I hope, revolutionary process that's going to go on with how we run buses in the region, we must have a voice, and we must actually be scrutinizing and looking at what is going to be the most effective and quickest route to getting to publicly controlled bus services that work better for passengers. So I think we need to not be hidebound by whatever structures we inherited from a previous iteration of this committee.
Thank you, Councillor Clements. Pete, you wanted to comment?
Yes, thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of quick comments from me. Firstly, as in advance, I need to offer my apologies that I have to leave at 3 on the dot. But also, with regards to this matter, then it may be worth, if members and other officers are happy to do so, that we just undertake a quick review with those MEG leaders, just to undertake a review around some of the comments that have been made, and just to see whether that brings us with any immediate tangible recommendations that we can bring forward and look at that in the here and now.
Okay, thank you, Pete. I'm just going to ask Pete to also do that, but also I know that Councillor Kay wanted to speak about bus services in Castle Bromwich with you. So if you've got a 3 o'clock meeting, could you make contact with Councillor Kay to talk about a specific issue and petition from his residents?
Happy to do so.
Okay. Councillor Nicholas.
Can I assure colleagues I will, using your words, stamp authority, I will not be hidebound, and perhaps we will change the name of Passenger First to reflect the discussion.
Thank you for those very helpful and constructive comments, John. Councillor Kettle.
Thank you, Chairman. It's a matter of on page 49, we're stating that the joint overview and scrutiny committee. Does that are we talking about both committees in one meeting there? Just clarification, if you would, Mr. Chairman.
The answer is yes. Both committees.
Surely that will not work. Having been in on the question and answer sessions that can go quite lengthy, to put 2 committees in one room, it's not going to work.
I believe we did that certainly with the former mayor last municipal year, and it seemed to work quite well. It was co-chaired, I think, by Councillor McNicholas and Councillor Bainton. But let us consider that one for you, Councillor Kay.
Thank you.
Councillor Kay.
Thank you. I may have missed this, but just to clarify, you're introducing an additional meeting into the calendar because we're not having elections next year. Does that mean that we are also introducing additional MEG meetings before that meeting?
That would be a matter for the next group to be champion to consider and discuss with the members of his or her MEG. Right, as there's no other people, committee members indicating to speak, I'm going to move on to item 11 and, number 10. Can we just agree all the recommendations and appointments?
Agreed.
Thank you. Item 11, Lindsay.
Thanks, Chair. So within your pack, you'll have the draft work programme for this committee and also the forward plan for WMCA board. So you'll be able to have sight of all the items that the board will consider. With regards to the work programme for this committee, please do let me know if you feel that further items should come forward to be scrutinised, and we can discuss the best way in which that item can be reviewed.
Okay, thank you, Lindsay. Councillor Clements.
Yeah, just in obviously on a theme here, or a hobby horse. Just I've asked about the transport levy already in this meeting, and I feel that this work programme ought to include, asking the officers for a report on the the transport levy and with some information, so that we look at how we compare to other places. And also looking at places like Nottingham, where it's not so much the transport levy, but revenue generation by the council through the workplace parking levy. Because I believe that we're going to need a combination of better funding from central government, but more imaginative ways of raising funding locally. But I want to see something about the transport levy in the work programme, and then just as we are a scrutiny committee, not just not just the old transport delivery committee. Is there any ambition to do any inquiry work as part of this committee? Because again, looking at what's happening in other CA areas or in Greater London on revenue funding, and that would be a classic area to do some inquiry work or a task and finish group. So I just wanted to understand what your position on that would be, Tim, as the chair, the incoming chair.
Thank you
But the specific request is around an item and a report on the transport levy.
I will ask officers to prepare a briefing for committee members on the transport levy, and once that briefing notice has been prepared, to actually discuss that. In terms of further inquiries, please accept that I'm new to this role today, but I will be taking views from officers as to what we should do. We did do, as you hear, under Councillor McNicholas's chairmanship, a task and finish on the effectiveness of scrutiny. So I am very much open to that suggestion within operational boundaries. Okay.
Thanks, Tim.
Okay, no problem. With no other indication to speak, John.
Okay, there's no AOB, but could that be on the agenda as a matter of course, as a standard item? I'd like to raise an issue, if I may.
Of course.
I've had a request from a Coventry citizen about a veterans bus pass. Now that seems to me something worthwhile considering, but I wonder what the implications will be. So can I seek a report coming to committee as to what the implications would be before we take it any further?
I think that's a very good suggestion, and if officers could actually note that. And again, along with that briefing report on the transport levy, I've asked for a briefing note on a veterans bus pass. And in terms of other item agendas, yes, I think we probably do need AOB, and also a standing item for petitions. So members can submit petitions relating to transport related issues, as indeed happened last municipal year. Councillor Clements, you wanted to speak again.
Yeah, it's just an AOB question. Just obviously you studied the terms of reference. I didn't see any reference to whether this committee attracts any special responsibility allowances. I'm slightly out of touch with what's happened since the merger, but I did Google and saw the outturn from 23-24 that last year allowances were being paid. So could the officer just explain what the situation is on that?
Yes, I will ask Dan to respond to that.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, there was a change in regulations that related to combined authorities last year, which confirmed the government's position that allowances can and should be paid to members who sit on scrutiny committees and audit committees of the combined authority. So the two scrutiny committees and the audit committee that we have now pay allowances. So all members who sit on the committee will receive a basic allowance, which is the same for each member. And then similar to local authorities, there are a number of special responsibility allowances for those members who hold additional positions of responsibility on the committee. Councillor Clements, I can send you the details and the figures, because if you ask me what they are, I can't remember off the top of my head. But I can circulate that for information. But the short answer is yes, all members on this committee now receive members' allowances.
So the chair, can you circulate them to every member then?
I can in fact send the list around to all members. You can. So,
Chair, can I have a supplementary?
Of course, Councillor Clements.
Yeah, it's just, can you, in the spirit of transparency to our residents, can that information be published on the website so that everybody can see, what we're getting for it? Because I looked and it's not transparent, and all I could find was the historic information about last year. Because obviously that is, the anomaly in the past was a big bone of contention, and I think now, if we're getting some sort of allowance for being on the committee, then that puts again puts the focus on actually turning up, you know, and being an active member of the committee. So I think it would be good, you know, to have that information on the CA's website somewhere where it can be easily found by members of the public. Thank you.
Dan?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we are, again, similar to your own local authorities, we are required to publicise on our website the allowances paid during the last full municipal year, which we do, and I will include the link for members in the email I send them. In addition, the scheme of allowances was approved by the WMCA board. So again, on our website are the reports. There were two separate reports by the independent remuneration panel that recommended a scheme of allowances that board members ultimately agreed, and I'll include those links as well.
Thank you, Dan. Right, okay, I'm moving on to item 12 because we've just gone past 3 o'clock. The date of the next meeting, as agreed previously, is now the 9th of September at 11 a.m. With that, can I thank you all for your attendance and wish you a safe journey to wherever you're going next. Thank you for your attendance.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks. Bye.
Bye, thanks.